What happens when a wife confesses she tested her love by sleeping with other men and expects a gentle sermon, but instead hears a quiet, "I understand," followed by a door closing? How does a husband trade anger for order, turning silence into process while the crowd begs for drama? Can a single line, "I'll handle this properly," outweigh every excuse she rehearsed? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Zuleika Hart, and I told myself I was doing research on my feelings, not breaking a home. I said a person can test love like a bridge and still respect the river below. In our kitchen, 2 mugs waited on opposite counters like quiet opinions. Aaron opened his laptop, and a narrow spreadsheet glowed with initials and dates. He said we could talk later. I said later felt cold. His phone lit, then dimmed, as if the day had secrets it would not share. The printer woke on its own and slid out a single blank page, as if the room preferred silence to speech. I found a photo in my gallery of a clipboard that showed only the word statement. I told myself it was for deliveries, not for me. In the guest room, a drawer clicked the moment I stepped inside. I said I only needed a pen. He said he would bring it later. The wall planner held a red circle around Friday like a mouth ready to say no. I touched the line of that circle and promised I would fix the air, the story, and the way my words had bitten through our calm. I woke before the alarm and told myself I was brave, not cruel. I said last night had been a study, and studies help families in the end. The room did not clap. The kettle hummed. I set 2 mugs on opposite counters, because habits are maps. Aaron walked in from the hall with calm hands and a careful face. He said, "Good morning." I said, "Good morning." He opened his laptop. A narrow spreadsheet with initials and dates lit the table like a thin lighthouse. I said it looked like routing. He said it helped him think. I said thinking is love when it is gentle. He did not answer. The printer near the wall woke by itself and fed out a single blank page. I laughed and said the house wanted peace in writing. He said sometimes nothing is the most honest sentence. I felt my chest jump once, like a bird in a box. I told myself a confession is a gift if the bow is neat. I said I had done field work on emotions so I could stop guessing. He said experiments need consent. I said feelings do not sign forms. He looked at the mugs and chose none. I went to the guest room and tried the desk drawer. It clicked from the inside when the door hinge spoke. The click was small and exact, the kind a room makes when it wants to keep order. I said I needed a pen for work. He said he would bring it later. I said later sounded like a hallway that never ends. He said later sounded like a handrail. I pretended to look for a charger. On the shelf, the clipboard photo came back to me, the one in my gallery that showed only the word statement. No letterhead, no numbers. Just that word. I told myself it was a utility thing. I told myself utilities are the bones of a house and not a threat. I left the room before the drawer could reply. In the kitchen, I opened the gallery again and stared at the photo. The lighting looked like our hallway at night. The edge of our table showed next to the corner of a paper. I zoomed in and saw nothing new. I closed the phone and face-downed it on the counter like a sleeping pet. The wall planner above the table had Friday circled in red. The circle looked like a mouth around a word I feared. I touched the paper and told the circle it was just ink. A calendar bar slid across Aaron's phone and then hid. I read one blue word before it faded. Key. The time sat next to it like a doorbell. 7:25 a.m. He pressed the side button, and the screen darkened, polite and firm. I made oatmeal I did not want, and ate half to show good faith to the room. I said out loud that I was sorry for noise. I said I had used the phrase slept with others to describe a method, not a betrayal. I said I had gathered data because doubt had been chewing at me for months. I said I could explain without shame if he gave me a clean minute. He said we could talk later. I said later was a verdict with no trial. He said later was the only way to keep the rest of the day whole. I stared at the blank page the printer had made and thought of hanging it on the fridge. I did not. He put on his jacket. A new key shone on his ring like a cold coin. I asked what had opened. He said organizing. I said organizing sounded like pre-moving. He said organizing sounded like breathing. I asked if he would meet me at lunch. He said he would be where he needed to be. I said I would draft a context post and keep it kind. He said I could choose for myself. I said then choose to sit and drink with me for 5 minutes. He lifted his phone to place it in his pocket. For 1 second, a thread name flashed across the top edge. Follow-up. The preview showed nothing, and then erased itself like a trick. I felt the floor under my feet give an inch and catch again. I followed him to the door without touching his sleeve. He did not pull away because I did not reach. He opened the door. The latch made its clean bite. He said we could still be decent. I said decency without touch is offense. He did not reply. He stepped into the hall. The door closed like a soft book. The apartment held its breath and then kept being a place. I stood and listened for footsteps outside. Footsteps paused and then moved on. The printer light blinked once and went still. I lifted my phone again, then put it down because I knew my hands would make the wrong shape. I took the blank page and slid it under the fridge magnet about recycling. It looked like a white flag. I wiped the counter that did not need wiping and thought about Evan's grin, the kind that steals sugar and calls it a prank. I told myself Evan was a symptom, not a cause. I told myself a tired wife may ask the world to hold her mirror, and the world may keep it for a night. I told myself the test had meaning, because I understood more than before. I said this to an empty room and heard the word more land like a dropped spoon. I left for work early, because stillness can bruise a person who already feels thin. The elevator mirror showed me a face that knew how to perform calm. I pressed that face on like a light sweater. In the lobby, a neighbor shifted her stroller to make space and then looked at me as if my skin carried captions. I smiled and said, "Thank you." She smiled and looked away, the kind of look that is kind because it refuses to be a witness. I walked into air that smelled like wet dust and fresh coffee and told the day I would behave. At the co-working space, I set out sign-in sheets and checked batteries in the small mics. Ren appeared with a clipboard and the kind of soft eyes that scare me because they see too much. She said I looked pale. I said I was focused. She asked if the patio tags were quiet now. I said tags are weather. She said the storm path looked long. I said the baby would bring balance and shade. She did not argue. She placed a bottle of water near my elbow and asked if I wanted to review a carousel. I said, "Show me." She held up her phone. First frame, city glow, my smile wide as glass. Second frame, a screenshot of the club patio, a shadow of Evan at my side, the caption, "Brave Village," pasted by someone who thought they were kind. Third frame, a poll asking if field work on feelings is a real thing. Fourth frame, my own words from 2 months ago about honesty being the best safety. I said, "Angles lie." She said sometimes angles tell the truth people hide. Ms. Bryn waved me into her office with the small gesture that means the talk will be controlled and short. I sat. She said our brand likes to be useful, not noisy. I said I understood and would keep my accounts calm. She said thank you and asked if I needed support. I said support was already here and lifted the water she had not given me. She smiled at the joke because she is kind. She said she had booked the HR room at 4:15 for a quick word on Friday's staffing plan. I said I would be there. We both stood at the same time, which always feels like a good omen. Back at the front desk, a courier in a neutral jacket spoke to reception in a tone that sounded like felt. He held 2 envelopes with no logos. The elevator bell dinged. and a group came out with laptops and clean shoes. The lobby smelled like citrus and new plans. My phone vibrated with a quiet alarm I did not set. Atrium, 11:10 a.m. The letters sat there like small teeth and then folded away. I looked across the room. Far by the lounge, Aaron had never been there, of course. The thought felt like a thread I could not see but could trip over. I posted nothing. I drafted and deleted a caption about growth. I wrote a line that said we had hit a bump and would lower our speed for safety. I deleted it. I wrote another that said, "A village is not a permission slip." I deleted that too. I asked Ren if I should say anything. She said not today. I said silence reads like guilt. She said silence reads like respect. I recognized the phrase from the kitchen and hated it twice now. I took lunch at the corner deli and ate outside. A bus sighed and the street leaf skittered, and the city reminded me that rooms continue even when hearts do not. When I returned, a new image had entered my shared album. It showed the edge of our hallway table at night and the corner of a paper at a gentle angle. The word statement sat at the top like a small crown. I closed the album and put the phone face down. A cloud toast blinked on my laptop in the corner. File uploaded successfully. It stayed for a breath and went away. I told myself archives are just boxes with tidy minds. I told myself if I stayed gentle, the day would stay plastic and bend without breaking. The door latch clicks as Aaron leaves. A thread titled "Follow-up" flashes and auto-vanishes on his phone. At work, a silent alarm reads Atrium, 11:10 a.m. and fades as the elevator bell dings and a courier lingers with neutral envelopes. I decided a crowd could rinse a stain if I kept the water moving, so I leaned into the rooftop mixer that evening. The sky wore late light like a scarf. The wind made the candle flames look like they were learning to read. I placed name tags, aligned chairs, and set the banner so the camera would catch our values and not my pulse. Ren checked the speaker and played a soft test beat. The beat walked the deck and came back polite. I said we would keep the night low. She said the night would try to grow teeth. I said I would not feed it. Guests arrived in small waves with that end-of-day energy that wants to be held by a simple plan. I greeted them with a steady smile I had paid for many times. A woman in a denim jacket raised her phone and spun slowly. The red record dot winked like a small god. I turned my body so the skyline filled the frame. A man asked if the pregnant manager would give a short welcome because a baby on a mic is a blessing. I said I would say 3 sentences and no more. Ren stood behind me like a guardrail. I took the mic. I said we were grateful, we were careful, and we built small good things for ordinary days. The deck clapped just enough. Phones tilted up. Someone started to chant truth in a playful tone that can turn into something else. I placed the mic back and smiled at plates. At the rail, 2 freelancers talked about light versus shadow and tested angles on my face with innocent excuses. I said the light was honest. They said honesty sells. I walked to the ice buckets and arranged bottles like chess pieces. A cousin's friend asked if I believed in testing love to be sure. I said I believed in learning. She said learning does not usually look like hotel carpets. I laughed the way you laugh when you want to fold a person into a softer shape. She did not fold. She drifted away and filmed the sunset instead. Ren showed me a message from Ms. Bryn with a single line. 4:15 HR tomorrow. Quick word. I said received. The elevator bell chimed behind us because a new group had arrived. The courier from this morning stood near reception now, holding 2 fresh envelopes with both hands like eggs. He scanned the room without hunting. He was just furniture with legs. I thought of the word atrium and the time that had tried to join my day without asking. I said to myself that atriums are bright spaces for plants. I said the word out loud as if it were a charm. Ren asked me to repeat it. I said never mind. A client walked up and handed me a glass of sparkling water. He said he admired my calm under pressure. I said calm is a skill you practice alone. He said I should teach a class. I said I already do. He laughed like a person who knows a joke when he hears one. Across the deck, a small knot formed around a phone screen. The screen showed 2 images side by side. The club patio shot with Evan, and me near the rooftop mic with my careful face. The math was simple and cruel. I walked toward them, then turned to the banner again and adjusted a clip. If I became a prop, they might film that instead. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A preview line from a thread named Follow-Up flashed and vanished before I could read a verb. I took the phone out and stared at the lock screen as if staring could bring text back to life. The wind lifted a corner of the banner. I fixed it with the tiny binder clip from my pocket, the one I carry like a superstition. A woman asked for a selfie. I said yes, because yes can control the angle if you learn the trick. We smiled into her lens. She said I looked strong. I said strength is just a calm face you keep polishing. Near 8, we moved to the long table in the family restaurant, because that was the reservation we had. The room held steam and talk like a warm bowl. The window gave us a reflection we could pretend to be. The server offered bread. I took it and distributed slices like a nurse with pills. Vera, my mother, placed her phone face down and then up and then down again. She said we should take a bright photo early, before our faces fell with tiredness. I said no more shows. She said shows are how people survive storms. Oleg, my father, told a clean joke about a manager who solved a budget problem with a pencil and a ladder. The table gave him mercy laughs because they love him. Aaron pulled out a chair for Marina and made sure Nadia had a cushion. He asked Nadia about her school project and helped her list 3 kinds of birds without turning it into a lesson. I watched his hands move and felt my throat say something unsaid. A cousin scrolled and frowned. Another cousin leaned in and then leaned back with her mouth a straight line. I said we should eat before the soup cooled. The server poured water like a ceremony. I tried to feel normal and found only a thin layer of pretend. I told the table I had been foolish. I said I had confused fear with freedom. I said I had used other people to measure a feeling I already owned. I said I was sorry. Vera said we would craft a statement that showed learning and hope. Marina said statements are not medicine. Oleg said we should avoid big words because big words make small ears ring. Aaron cut his bread and placed the knife quiet on the plate. He did not look at me. He asked the server for more butter because he cares for small comforts. When the plates cleared, the cousin at the end asked for a toast. She said second chances are beautiful. The table murmured, the way a table does when it wants a safe path. Someone said the words truth toast in a voice that wanted to be funny. Someone else clapped twice. The rhythm built because rhythm always does. I said we could share gratitude instead. Cameras rose anyway. A flash went off like a tiny storm against glass. I raised my water and said I was grateful for families that choose care over spectacle. Phones recorded the way a net gathers fish. Aaron set his glass down. He stood. He helped Marina push back her chair. He placed the folded napkin on the plate and touched the table once as if thanking it. He walked to the door with steady steps. The cameras turned toward his back like sunflowers. He left the room correct and whole. Vera hissed a whisper about optics. Marina placed a hand on my shoulder with the gentleness of a person who refuses to push. Nadia asked if we were going to keep eating. We said yes because food keeps people upright. The server returned with dessert menus none of us opened. I excused myself to the restroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My face had the look of a person who just climbed 3 flights. I told the mirror that tomorrow would be better if I kept words simple. The mirror told me nothing. It just kept the light from falling. Back outside, the air had cooled. We said our goodnights anyway because rituals feed the spine. Marina hugged Nadia and promised to read the bird book with her again. Vera kissed my cheek and whispered that we would write a post at 9 tomorrow and end this. I nodded without giving the nod a path. Oleg patted my back twice like a metronome. Aaron waited by the door to the street and said he would go ahead. I said I could ride with him. He said tonight was not a night for that. He turned and walked into air that did not resist him. I watched his shoulders and tried to remember if they had always been that square. On the way home, I checked my phone. The preview from Follow-Up did not exist anymore. A local page I do not follow had reposted the patio photo with a new caption about experiments. I blocked the page because blocking is the only magic that still works. On the metro, a boy practiced a speech for school. He said, "Courage is doing a hard thing on purpose." He forgot a line, then found it. People smiled. I listened, because borrowed courage is still courage. When I reached the apartment, the stairwell smelled of old paint and warm dust. Footsteps paused outside our door and then moved past. Inside, the desk drawer clicked when the hinge spoke. The printer coughed and fed one blank page like a quiet joke we did not laugh at. The wall planner's red circle held its shape. I stood under it and felt very small. I put the new blank page under the magnet with the old one and told myself 2 empty pages mean double peace. The house did not argue. It also did not agree. The manager confirms a 4:15 HR quick word for tomorrow as the elevator bell chimes. On the rooftop and at dinner, phones rise, a side-by-side image spreads, a flash pops, and Aaron stands and leaves without a scene, while a courier with neutral envelopes watches the room. I told myself a bigger room would make the story smaller, so I confirmed the client's move from the rooftop to the community center hall. The space smelled like floor cleaner and sugar. Rows of folding chairs faced a portable stage. A rented mic waited on a stand as if it understood crowds better than people do. I checked extension cords and placed a small sign that said, "Guests only" in soft letters. Ren adjusted the mixer and said the room should not become a headline. I said, "Rooms are strong when people stand straight." She said, "People bend when a camera asks them to bend." I said I would stay level. She handed me a roll of tape like a safety rope. People arrived with paper name tags and the glow that comes from being filmed. A cousin's friend raised a phone and did a slow pan. I turned so the banner behind me read clearly. My mother entered with a bright scarf and her voice already set on high. She said we would take 3 photos before my face got tired. I said 2 would be enough. She said this was not the night for less. My father shook hands as if handshakes could glue a room back together. He asked if the mic worked. I tapped the switch, and the speaker hissed, then calmed. I said it was fine. He said fine is sometimes grace. Aaron arrived with his mother. He chose an aisle seat and kept his posture normal, not stiff and not loose. He said hello to my parents, and then stepped back. Marina carried a plain folded blanket as a gift and said soft things matter when nights are hard. I said thank you with my eyes, because my throat felt full. She looked at my face, then at Aaron, then at the chairs, and said nothing else. Silence can be a steady bridge. A coordinator asked for opening remarks. I said I would keep it short. I stepped to the mic and thanked volunteers, staff, and guests. I said we build small good things for ordinary days. Phones tilted up. A woman in a denim jacket near the snack table raised her camera higher and said the internet had questions. She said questions would fade if I said one sentence and meant it. I asked what sentence. She said, "Say that it was nothing, and that I am sorry, and that my husband matters more than a party." The mic gave a thin feedback squeal. I glanced at Aaron. He watched the floor near his shoes, not the show. I felt heat in my face and told myself, heat is a kind of light. I said we would not let other voices talk over us. I said the people who matter would see we are careful and kind. I said I made one mistake after a few drinks, and I would show it had no shape. The last word sounded small through the speaker. The side door scraped. Evan came in late, the way he always comes in when he wants the room to notice. He lifted his hand like a man offering peace to a crowd he already burned. He looked past me toward Aaron, and then back at me, as if I still held a key he could borrow. I turned my shoulders to block his line. The denim jacket pivoted and filmed both our faces in one frame. People shifted to find that shot. My mother raised her chin to me like she could push me to victory with only her neck. My father made a slow circle with his finger, as if time could rewind on command. Ren moved behind me so I could feel her like a guardrail. She said in a low voice that I should step away from the mic. I said I had it. She said the room was hungry. I said, I am not food. A guest called out, ask her about the patio, and a few small laughs rose and fell. I said we would not answer bait. I placed the mic back on its stand and took a step to the right so the banner filled more of the frame. The red record dot stayed on. The chant started small, the kind that thinks it is a joke. Someone clapped twice. Someone else clapped 4 times. The rhythm found itself. People said truth toast like a chorus that had practiced in secret. A guest near the aisle held up a still image on her screen. It showed me on the club patio, with Evan half a step too close, the caption Brave Village under our tilted heads. Next to it, another screen showed me near this very mic, face set for control. The math was easy and mean. I said, angles lie when light is cheap. A voice from the back said, sober angles do not lie. I said we were done with this topic. The room ignored my sentence. Aaron stood then, not fast, not slow. He picked up the folded blanket Marina had brought and set it on a chair. He said nothing to the room. He said nothing to Evan. He touched the back of his chair once like a thanks. He walked toward the exit, steady and whole. Phones turned toward his back like flowers toward sun. Marina followed with a small nod at me. Her hand brushed my shoulder, not comfort and not blame. It was a reminder that hands can say stop. Evan half raised his palm, like he wanted a handshake I would never give him again. The denim jacket kept filming. The mic waited for a line no one spoke. I said the cookies were good, the parking was better than usual, and thank you for coming. People laughed because they needed an exit. They found one and used it. Ren unplugged the speaker and wrapped the cord with tight loops. She said we would send the last guest toward the door. I stacked paper plates and focused on corners. Corners are honest when faces are not. After the room emptied, I checked my phone. A calendar bar slid across the top for a contact I could not see. Depot, 2:05 p.m. It hid itself fast. I told myself deliveries keep cities alive. I told myself that word did not belong to me. Ren asked if I needed a ride home. I said I would meet the family at the restaurant. She said, take a breath first. I said I would breathe on the walk. At the family restaurant, steam blurred the glass. The long table waited under pendant lamps. We sat in a way that tried to look like normal. The server poured water without asking questions. I told a small story about a supplier who sent the wrong size tablecloths and how we overlapped two and called it a design. The story lay on the plates and stared at me. A cousin watched a reel with the sound off. Another cousin leaned in, whispered a sentence, and leaned back with a straight mouth. I asked Aaron if he wanted soup. He said he was fine. I said fine is a small word with sharp corners. He said it is also a true word. I said I missed laughing with him. He said laughter has seasons. I said this one feels cold. He said cold can be honest. Nadia climbed onto a chair and showed a drawing of 3 birds in a row. She asked if truth is a circle or a line. I said truth is a thing that fits inside both. She asked why adults call something nothing if they hide it. The table went quiet for one breath. I said adults use soft words to help a day survive. She looked at me, and then at Aaron, and said she hoped he was not sad. He said he was careful. She nodded, like a person who trusts careful people. We ate because chewing gives a mouth a job when it should not talk. When dessert menus came, we did not open them. We paid and said goodnight in the doorway. Marina hugged Nadia and promised a bird book later. Vera kissed my cheek and whispered that we should post at 9 in the morning and put this to sleep. I said we would see. Oleg put 2 warm pats on my back like a metronome. Aaron said he would go ahead. I asked to ride with him. He said tonight was not a night for that. He stepped into air that did not resist him, and he disappeared in a clean line. The chant for a truth toast grows. Phones lift, a side-by-side photo spreads. The mic squeals, and Aaron rises and leaves while the denim jacket keeps recording. I told myself family walls could hold a falling thing, so I planned a small dinner at our place the next evening. I cleaned each surface twice, which felt like prayer. I straightened the runner in the hall. I set 2 mugs on opposite counters because moving them would be a lie. The wall planner's red circle around Friday looked darker than ink should. The printer light blinked like a patient eye. When I opened the guest room door, the desk drawer clicked the moment the hinge spoke. I said I needed a pen. Aaron said he would bring it later. I said later sounded like a third person living here. He said later was a rule that keeps minds from breaking. Marina arrived first with a simple salad and a steady face. She said she would stay for 1 hour. She said she was available for rides and logistics, not shows. I said I appreciated that. She set the salad on the counter and noticed the mugs, then looked away. Vera came in with a dish that steamed and smelled like a meal you eat when you stop running. She said we would take 1 bright photo to prove the world wrong. I said we would not perform. She said the world was already filming. I said our house did not need another lens. She said lenses love houses like ours. Oleg arrived with seltzer and a joke he promised not to tell. We sat. Forks made the soft sound that forks make when people decide not to raise their voices. Vera tried a laugh about how all babies look like their grandfathers for a month, and then their real faces arrive. The laugh had no grip. Oleg asked Aaron about routes at work. Aaron said initials and dates kept the process clean. He said clean meant fair. He did not look at me. He looked at the window and then at his plate. I said I was sorry a party had become a hammer. I said I had confused fear with freedom. I said I had used other people to measure a feeling I already owned. I said I would fix the air. Vera said air fixes itself if you open the right doors and send the right message. Marina said doors are not solutions when the room is the problem. Oleg asked if a neighbor still had a spare stroller we could borrow. I said the neighbor moved. The table accepted this the way tables accept salt. Nadia arrived with Marina's sister to return Aaron's bird book. She held the book with both hands like a ceremony. She asked why adults call something small if it can break a big thing. She said it like a math problem with one answer. I said adults soften words because hard words bruise. She said soft words are not the same as truth. She looked at Aaron and said she hoped he was okay. He said he was careful. She nodded with that small, serious face. She left with a wave that did not try to fix anyone. A soft digital chime sounded from Aaron's phone. He pressed the side button. The lock screen flashed and then hid. I saw a bar before it vanished. Harbor 3:35 p.m. I looked at the wall planner again. The red circle sat heavy around Friday. On the corkboard, a sticky note in his square handwriting said, "Bring forms." I touched the corner of the note and let it go. The laptop on the side table flashed a small toast. File uploaded successfully. The word stayed for a breath, then disappeared. Vera pointed with her chin and asked if I was working during dinner. I said no. She said then someone else was. Marina kept her eyes on her plate. After plates, we moved to the balcony for air. The city wore a blue that makes windows honest. Oleg said he believed in second chances, but also in clean lines. He said clean lines keep people from walking into the same wall twice. Vera said images heal faster than apologies. Marina said apologies are not medicine if they do not include change. Aaron said he was done arguing. He said we would not rehearse the night again. He said he would handle matters properly. The word properly sat between us like a folded paper with a map inside. I said properly sounded like a threat. He said it sounded like a plan. I said plans can be weapons. He said plans can be walls that keep wind from the crib. Back inside, the oven fan clicked on by itself and hummed like a patient machine. The guest bed showed one sharp crease, like a held breath. The printer coughed out another blank page and slid it forward with care. I placed it under the magnet next to the first one, like a pair of gloves I might need in a storm. The desk drawer clicked again, a tiny sound with large meaning. My phone vibrated on the counter. A preview from a thread named Follow-Up flashed and vanished before a verb appeared. I opened the app and found old notes about water delivery and a lost key. I closed it. Silence can be a wall. Vera took a breath in a way that meant a speech was coming. She said we needed a plan the family could understand. She said she would call friends and fold the noise into a new shape. Marina said she would not join any plan made of noise. She said she would bring rides and rest if asked, and nothing shaped like a show. Vera said silence looks like surrender. Marina said silence looks like respect. Oleg said maybe there is a third word we do not know yet. Aaron said we did not need another word. He said we needed rules. He said he would follow rules because rules keep people safe. He did not list them. He did not ask for agreement. I carried dishes to the sink to keep my hands from pleading. I rinsed a glass and put it down gently so it would not make a statement by accident. The hall smelled faintly of printer toner, the way paper smells when it has warmed and cooled. I said we could see a counselor before we do anything else. Aaron said he heard me. He did not say yes. He did not say no. He looked at the door, and then at the mugs, and then at the drawer. It clicked again like a person clearing a throat. Vera stood and gathered her purse. She said she would call me in the morning. Oleg said he would stop by after lunch with tools in case a shelf needed fixing. Marina said she would be available if rides were needed, then paused and added that she would respect any process Aaron chose. She did not hug me. She did not pat my arm. She handed me her calm face like a coat. A person passes you before you step into wind. At the door, Nadia asked one last question. She asked if promises are stronger than experiments. I said promises are supposed to be. She nodded once like a judge and left. The apartment listened to itself. A car idled outside and moved on. The oven fan clicked off. The hum of a shredder in the other room rose for a few seconds and stopped. I stood very still and watched the wall planner until the red circle looked like a tunnel. My phone lit once more with a small bar I did not invite. Meeting, personal, 8:20 a.m. It went dark. I told myself I could still fix the air if I moved gently and spoke like a person who had learned. I told myself words can turn a wheel if you do not spin them too fast. Nadia asks if promises are stronger than experiments. The shredder hums and stops. A calendar bar, meeting. Personal 8:20 a.m., flares and fades, while the desk drawer clicks shut in the quiet. I told myself small tasks could fix the room, so I made a list with milk, bread, fruit, and one brave sentence. I folded the list like it was medicine. The apartment waited with careful quiet. 2 mugs stood on opposite counters, like neighbors who no longer wave. Aaron came from the hall with his phone. He washed his hands as if water could rinse last week out of our life. He said good morning. I said good morning. He glanced at the wall planner without touching the red circle around Friday. I asked if we could talk now. He said later would be better. I said later felt like a punishment. He said later felt like respect. His phone lit with the word private and went still. He did not answer it. The printer next to the table warmed and fed a single blank page like a calm breath. I said the house liked white flags. He said sometimes nothing is the only honest line. On the landing, a neighbor said the weather might turn. I said we had coats. She nodded at my stomach and said rest is also a coat. I nodded back and kept moving because stairs do not wait for feelings. In the pharmacy queue, a woman watched a reel with the sound off. The frame froze on the club patio shot where Evan stood half a step too close. She tilted the screen away when she felt my eyes. The cashier asked if I needed a bag. I said yes, and then said no, and then said yes again. He slid the milk toward me and wished me a light day. I said I hoped the same and meant it. At the supermarket, the cart complained at every seam in the tile. By the fruit, a neighbor from 2 buildings over asked if we had chosen a doctor yet. I said we were reviewing. She said decisions are kinder when taken early. I said calm is also kind. She studied the apples and did not argue. At checkout, the small monitor near the gum looped local clips and rested 1 beat too long on the rooftop frame. I stared at the floor line between 2 tiles and told myself pictures do not own air. Back home, the stairwell hummed. The door opened the way a calm mouth opens. The apartment smelled faintly of printer toner, as if paper had been warm. I lined up the fruit on the counter and squared the edges of the bag. In the guest room, the desk drawer clicked the moment the hinge spoke. I said I only needed a pen. He said he would bring it later. I said later sounded like a third person. He said later sounded like a rule that keeps walls from cracking. On the corkboard, a sticky note in his square hand said, "Bring forms." A cloud toast blinked on the laptop across the room, file uploaded successfully, and swallowed itself. I pretended not to see it because seeing turns things into things. He took his jacket from the chair. The new key on his ring flashed like a quiet idea. He said he had to go out. I asked where. He said organizing. I said organizing sounded like moving. He said organizing sounded like breathing. I said I could come. He said today was not a day for that. I said I would delete every post and call every friend and ask for deletes and beg if I had to. He said I could choose for myself. I asked if he believed me. He said belief grows slower than apology. I asked for a chance. He said chances need rules, or they become knives. He checked the time. A small strip of blue slid across his lock screen and dimmed. Atrium, 6:35 p.m. The word atrium felt like a word that already knew me. I asked what it was. He said scheduling. I said it sounded like a meeting with a judge. He said it sounded like an umbrella. He turned toward the door. I asked if he was going to talk to Evan. He said he had nothing to say to Evan. I said, then say something to me. He said he would handle this properly. He stood very still as he said it, like a person putting down a heavy box without waking a child in the room. I said properly sounded like a blade. He said properly sounded like a fence that keeps the wind off the crib. He put on his shoes. The door latch made its clean bite. He left without force. I stood and listened. Footsteps paused outside, as if someone counted to 3 and then moved on. The printer cooled. The sticky note on the corkboard looked older than ink allows. I filled 1 mug with water and left the other dry, because honesty sometimes requires ugly accuracy. I sent a small heart to Wren and asked if she could cover the evening check-in. She said yes, and then asked if I was safe. I said I was safe and told the truth. I took the metro, because movement sometimes keeps a heart from grinding. In the window reflection, I practiced a sentence about fear and freedom. It sounded like a person trying to sell a bridge to a man who already owns a boat. I reached the office district where glass lobbies stay bright, even when the sky is tired. The tower's lobby held a concierge desk and chairs that do not let you slouch. A fountain whispered the sound of coins, though there were none. I stood near a column and folded my hands so the scene would not turn into a scene. Mr. Van at the desk nodded with that neutral kindness lobbies learn. I breathed 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Breathing is math. Math does not read captions. Aaron arrived with the steady step he uses when he moves through a broken place without breaking it more. He said my name. I said his. He did not take a step toward me or away from me. He thanked the concierge for the time. The words landed like clean coins. I started my honest sentence. I said I had called it research because fear had dressed itself as freedom. I said I was sorry and meant it with all the quiet I had. He listened with his hands on the back of a chair. He did not interrupt. His eyes closed once for a slow second and opened again. A person in a neutral jacket approached from the left with a clipboard and a calm face. The voice was even, the kind that carries instructions without bruising air. The person asked me to confirm my full name. I confirmed it because names are the last thing you can hold when a room takes other things away. The person said a line about identification and delivery. An envelope moved from one hand to mine with a measured slide. Paper touched skin. A pen moved across a short line. The air accepted the mark. The moment became a fact. Aaron thanked the staff member. He kept his voice low enough that the fountain did not have to adjust itself. I opened the top edge of the envelope and saw the words I had tried to not imagine. It was a divorce petition with temporary financial and possession orders. It did not roar. It did not use fire. It explained. It named who would be in the apartment which days for now. It listed which account would cover which bills for now. It said our communication must stay respectful and that posts about the dispute must stop. It asked us to coordinate through a neutral channel until a longer plan existed. It said the orders were immediate. I looked up. Aaron kept his eyes on the chair back, as if staring at me would pin me to the paper. I said this was public humiliation. I said lobbies are stages, and stages turn pain into souvenirs. He said this was clarity. He said we needed rules so harm would not grow legs. He said I deserved a process that did not require guessing, and that he deserved one too. He said we could be careful now, and that would be a kind of kindness later. He did not touch me. He did not list names. He did not become a different person to win the moment. He stayed himself. The fountain kept whispering. A pair of heels clicked past and softened into carpet. Mr. Van wrote the time in a discreet log and closed it with a small sound. I tried to form a sentence about one night versus a life, and the middle fell out. The paper in my hand held its shape and did not bend for my feelings. I read the line about possession blocks and the line about interim finances. They were boring and merciful. I read the line about cooperation and the line about no contact with Evan beyond any formal truth-finding that would not require me at all. I read the line about no online references to the case. The language felt like rails. Rails keep trains from wandering into houses. I said I would delete all my posts and ask friends to delete theirs and accept that some would not. He said I could choose for myself. He said choices had weight now. I said I hated that sentence and loved that it was true. He said he would come by on his days to collect what he needed and leave receipts when he did. I said that was not needed. He said it helped him think. The phrase was the same as the first morning. It no longer hurt. It made sense. And sense is heavier than anger, because you cannot throw it. The person in the neutral jacket stepped a half-pace back and became furniture again. Two visitors crossed toward the elevators and kept their eyes on the floor numbers. A child in a winter hat asked the concierge for directions to a dentist and got them. The lobby did not take sides. It held people and returned them to streets. Aaron nodded once to me and once to the room. He said thank you to the process like it was a person. He turned toward the revolving door. I wanted to stop him with a word that does not exist. He walked with that even step that refuses to break a place. The door turned and accepted him into the bright outside. The elevator bell chimed for someone else. I looked down at the petition and felt the temporary orders land in my life like furniture I had not ordered but now owned. The air did not applaud or hiss. It simply continued. I folded the page back into the envelope and felt its weight against my palm. He says, I will handle this properly. While a calendar bar, atrium 6:35 p.m., glows and fades, the printer cools. Footsteps pause outside our door and move on. Service in the office tower lobby. Divorce petition with temporary orders handed over. The elevator bell dings. The result lands. Cut to black. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.